Hi guys, welcome back to the Curly Reader. So today I'm going to do the audiobook tag. This is a tag that I found from Jen Loves Audiobooks or Jen Talks Audiobooks, something like that. I will link the video down below, the creator of this and her original video down below. But these are all questions having to do with audiobooks. And as an audiobook lover myself, I thought this would be appropriate. So let's get started. The first question for this tag is name a book that was better on audio. And for this, I'm going to say Echo by Pam Munoz Ryan. I honestly don't know how you could have the same reading experience reading this in print form as you would listening to the audio. I think that because the music in this book is so important that it is essential to the reading experience that you get to hear the music through it, and you get to do that in an audiobook. And so I think that this would be one that I would say would definitely be better on audio. Another book that I think is better on audio than it is in print is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is a book that is written about slam poetry in a slam poetry style of writing. The author narrates the book herself, and she does it in a way where you get to really hear the slam poetry come through the way that it was intended to be heard. And I don't know, unless you're familiar with slam poetry, that you would be able to read it with the same rhythm going and really be able to consume it the way that the author wanted you to consume it. And so I think this is definitely a book that was meant to be listened to, and the author does a fantastic job of narrating it and really allowing the reader to hear it the way that she wanted them to. So I think that this is definitely one that is also better on audio than it would be in print form. The next question is name a book that was worse on audio and you switched. And for this, I have two answers. My first answer is Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This is one, it's not necessarily that it was bad on audio. I just personally didn't connect with it on audio, and so I switched and I read it in a physical format. And I really enjoyed it on a physical format, but I tried multiple times to listen to the audio and I just could not connect with it. So this is definitely one that I switched, and I really enjoy the book still. I just didn't enjoy the audiobook. My other answer to this question is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. This is one that I have not read yet. It is on my list of books that I'm going to be reading as part of a project I'm doing where I am reading the books that have been on my TBR the longest, and this is one of those books. But I have attempted this audiobook 4 or 5 times, and I've DNF'd the audio of it every single time. I just cannot get into it, and I really think that I will enjoy the book once I read it, but I think that this is definitely one that I'm personally going to have to read in physical form. I don't know if that's the way everyone is with it, but for me, this is one that I will definitely have to consume physical format. Question number 3 is to name your top female and male narrator. So I have 2 female narrators that I adore, and I will go look for books that are specifically narrated by these people just so I can listen to their majestic voice. So these 2 narrators are Rebecca Soler. She narrates the Lunar Chronicles. She also narrates part of Sadie, the book Sadie. She narrates Caraval. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones that I can think of off the top of my head that I know that she has narrated, but she's a fairly well-known narrator. She does narrate quite a few different books, but she's definitely one that I absolutely love. The Lunar Chronicles were some of the first audiobooks that I really got into, that I really enjoyed, and this is highly due to the fact that I love the narrator. The other narrator that I want to mention is January Lavoie. She narrates the Diviners series by Libba Bray, and she is fantastic. fantastic as far as being able to have different voices for different characters, and the voices take on the inflection of the neighborhoods they live in or the ethnicity that they are, or things like that. And she is just absolutely remarkable, and I really, really love her. I cannot think off the top of my head if she has narrated anything else that I have personally read, but I know that I loved the 3 books that I have read in that series, mainly because the narrator was fantastic. As far as a male narrator, I don't really have a favorite that stands out to me across multiple books that I've listened to. I have enjoyed different male narrators. I really enjoyed listening to Unbroken, which was narrated by Edward Herman. I thought that he did a fantastic job narrating, and honestly, if he was still alive and still narrating books, I would probably look for books that were narrated by him just to be able to listen to them, because I loved listening to this audiobook so much. I also really enjoyed Ready Player One by Will Wheaton. I think that his narration style for this book was fantastic. Across multiple books, I don't know. I've never really listened to anything else narrated by him. So I don't really have a male narrator that sticks out off the top of my head. The next book is What is the longest book that you have ever listened to? And the longest book that I have ever finished listening to is Winter by Marissa Meyer. This is the 4th book of the Lunar Chronicles, and this was just over 23 hours long. As far as audiobook goes, this is, I want to say, like 800, just a little over 820 pages long in print format. But I didn't even know. I had to go and look through all of my read books to see which one was the longest, and I would have never even guessed that this would have been on the list of longest books, because I love these books so much. They just kind of flew by for me. But this is the longest one that I've finished reading. However, I am currently in the middle of listening to Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. I'm doing this as part of a read-along that is being hosted by Spinster's Library and Infinite Text here on YouTube. But this is 40 hours long in the audiobook format. And I have been predominantly listening to this. Occasionally I'll pick it up and flip through a couple pages, but for the most part, I've been listening to the audiobook. I've been enjoying it. It's a lot of details in it, but I've been enjoying it. But yeah, 40 hours long definitely takes the cake on longest audiobook I've ever listened to. The next question is the shortest book you've ever listened to, and the shortest book that I have ever listened to is A Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. This is 1 hour and 45 minutes long on audiobook. It is a YA novel. It's written in verse, and I think that's what makes it so short. It is fantastic. It is narrated by the author, but yeah, really, really short listen. So if you're looking for a short listen, that's definitely one to check out, because it was fantastic, but definitely very short. The next question is, how do you listen to your audiobooks? So do you listen on an MP3 player, if those are even still around anymore, your phone, a speaker? How do you listen to them? What kind of earbuds do you use? That sort of thing. So I pretty much exclusively listen to my audiobooks on my phone through library apps. That just tends to be what works best for me. Occasionally when I'm in my car has a Bluetooth connection, and so I'll put it over the speakers of my car if I'm the only one in my car. Otherwise, I'll put the radio on and I'll listen to it with a Bluetooth earbud in my ear. So there are a few different earbuds that I use though. The first of which, I brought them all up here with me. The first of which is this little just single earbud. It has one button on it. It has a little USB charger that you can use with it, but this is one that I got that's really convenient for in the car. So my car has a USB charger. I just plug this in. I keep it in my car as far as a charging dock goes for it, and I just put it in my ear when I'm driving, and the kids can listen to the radio, and I can have one earbud in and have one ear open listening to kids and traffic and all the other things that I need to be paying attention to. The one button allows me to pause, turn it off, play, turn it on, whatever. But it's pretty simple. This was like $14 on Amazon. So I use that. I also recently purchased these. These are Bluetooth earphones that come with a charging case. There's 2 of them. I don't like these quite as much as I like my pink one. I like that there's two of them. I wanted to get ones where there was two of them, but now that I have them, I don't know if I would repurchase them. They're not quite as comfortable in my ears as my pink one is, and I very rarely use both of them at the same time, so I don't know as though it's really needed. It is kind of nice to be able to switch back and forth. The bad thing about these ones is like you have to put the left one in the left ear and the right one in the right ear, whereas with this pink one, it will go in either ear, so you can switch back and forth. So that's kind of the difference with these two, but I do use these occasionally. And then the third set that I use are my Bose Bluetooth earbuds that my husband got me for Christmas a couple years ago. He spent way too much money on them, in my opinion, but they were a surprise, and I love these headphones. They are so comfortable in your ear. The sound quality is really, really good. They're just fantastic. The only thing I don't like about them is the cord. It's rubbery, and so it catches on my neck when I'm moving around and doing housework and things like that, and it just makes it so where it's like tugging them out of my ears sometimes. Eventually I would like to splurge and get the wireless, completely wireless ones of these, but that's not in the budget anytime soon. So I really love these. I use them quite a bit, but they can be kind of a pain. I find myself more times than not walking around with one in and the whole thing just hanging down, like swinging around, which is also really obnoxious. But the comfort level on these is superior to anything else I've ever used. So that is what I use as far as earbuds go. Otherwise, I just put it on the speaker on my phone and just turn the volume up. But I use my earbuds predominantly when the kids are around, especially if it's a book that is not kid appropriate, or if I'm in the car with the kids. All right, the next question is, should authors narrate their own books? And I kind of have mixed opinions on this. I think that some authors should narrate their own books. In fact, some of my favorite books are narrated by the author. Elizabeth Acevedo narrates her own books, and she is phenomenal at narrating them. So I don't necessarily think it's a blanket no. Memoirs, especially nonfiction books, I definitely think should be narrated by the author. I think that it brings out the authenticity of the book, and you really can connect with it a little bit more. As far as authors narrating fictional works all the time, no. Unless an author is skilled in voice acting, I do not think that it is a good idea. I think that it can be detrimental to the book. I think that it is best left to the skilled, like I said, voice actors, people that have been trained in that. But some authors are very skilled in that, and so I think that there's space for that as well. So kind of a mixed answer for that one. The next question is, do you have a book that you wished could be redone on audio, and if so, by what narrator? My answer to this one is Educated by Tara Westover. We all know I'm not a fan of this book. However, that being said, I also didn't really care for the narration. It is a memoir, and it is not narrated by the author, and I think that might have taken away from it a little bit. I wasn't a huge fan of the author. I didn't think that she necessarily did a great job with this book, but I don't think that that necessarily had anything to do with my rating of the book itself. I was able to absorb the content and connect with the content the way that it was intended, I believe. So I equally didn't like the narration and didn't like the book itself, but I don't necessarily have a narrator in mind other than the author herself, but it would depend on how comfortable she was with speaking. So I don't know. I would like to see this one redone, but I don't necessarily have an answer for who I would like to redo it. The next question is, what is the best audiobook you've ever listened to? I have quite a few that I've really enjoyed, but I would say the best audiobook I've ever listened to is probably The Diviners by Libba Bray. January Lavoie is the narrator of this, and she just does such a phenomenal job with this book. It is so well done, and I really, really, really enjoyed the audio of this. But there have been quite a few books that I would say are pretty high up on my list of audiobooks that I absolutely love. And the last question is, what is the most recent book that you've listened to on audio? And my answer for this is When Life Gives You Lululemons by Lauren Weisberger. This is a sequel to The Devil Wears Prada. I think it's number 3 in the series. I never read number 2. I read number 1 many moons ago, but I recently took part in the Buzzword Readathon that's hosted by Books and Lala, and so I kind of went on to my Overdrive app and just put in "you," which was the buzzword for this round of the readathon, and looked for what was currently available in audiobook, and this is one that popped up that I had never heard of before, but it sounded kind of interesting, and it was a solid 3-star read for me, so it was good. It wasn't anything spectacular, nothing to write home about, but it was good. And so I'm glad that I listened to it. So those are all of the questions for the audiobook tag. I hope that you enjoyed my answers to these. If you really enjoy listening to audiobooks and you listen to quite a few of them, I would encourage you to do this tag. It's really fun to kind of look back on your listening experience and just kind of see what some of your favorites are. So I encourage you to take part in this. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you stick around and subscribe. And until next time, see ya.